Fisher. Distinguished Toastmaster Bob Fisher has been with Toastmasters nearly a decade now and feels he's peaked before he was fully ripe. He's joining us today to share a few of the fruits of his journey. He's picked along the way with Leadership, a Journey. Please welcome to the podium, he's making me say this, he even wrote it down, but please welcome Mr. Bob Fisher.
I've been in management since I was 16 years old. I actually went to Whopper College in New York and graduated as a manager for Burger King. I've been in management in every position I've held in every company since that age of 16. And then I did the stupid thing and decided to go into leadership with Toastmasters International. And it was at that point that I realized I knew absolutely nothing about leadership. Mrs. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, it truly is a journey. You go through all this experience of learning how to be a manager. I've gone to 2 management training programs with various companies before I was even 18. I started off, as I said, with Burger King at 16, and then I went through management training with US 1 Auto Parts and actually managed one of their major stores in Long Island. And then from there, I went into the medical field and I ended up running services in the hospital. I was a coordinator, that they call, so it's sort of like a supervisor in the hospital where I worked, and I did many services. But in all these jobs as a younger kid, I realized my authority, I realize now, came from the job I had. Other people said, you have to follow what this guy says because he's your manager, he's your coordinator. And that's held true. I've actually managed, it was 80 hospitals in 69 cities in 19 different states at one point. I had over 450 direct report tos, but that was exactly it. They reported to me. Their career, their livelihood, their paychecks was because somebody told them, you have to listen to this guy, he's a manager. Now, along my journey, I've realized now that I've found lots of leaders. One person stands to mind. There was this guy who could not have been more from the ghetto if you had paid it. The way he acted, the way he talked, everything. But something about Bernard, people worked for Bernard. They did what he asked them to do, not because he had any authority, but because they just worked for him. He set the example and they wanted to be like him. This gentleman now is the director of central processing at George Washington Hospital in DC. There was something about Bernard that I saw in him that he could be a true leader, and despite the fact he didn't have the education, there was just that thing. To this day, if you met Bernard and he's in his 60s, he still talks and acts the same way he did when I met him when he was in his 40s. But he's now this most amazing leader at a major hospital in Washington, D.C. It shows that some people just have natural leadership abilities. And though I could see it in others, it wasn't until I came to Toastmasters International and started to learn what leadership was that I started to develop my leadership skills. And God knows if you've worked with me, they ain't perfect, and I admit, because it's very easy when you're a manager to get people to do what you want. Again, they're told they have to or they don't get paid. But learning those skills, especially what Toastmasters International teaches you to be, a servant leader, is a completely different game that you have to learn. And I started off like most leaders. I started off in my club. I was voluntold. And in the club that I belonged to, you definitely do what they tell you to do, or else. And then someone asked me if I would be an area director. I had no clue what an area director was about. And it turned out the other area director and I was with Edwin, we actually were doing the job for the division director because apparently the division director at that time also had no clue what it was all about. And if you've known the woman, I don't speak ill of the dead, but you would totally get the point. But it wasn't until I was asked to go into the district trio that I truly realized I got a lot to learn. Because even then, I'm a member of the trio, I expected people to do what I asked them to do just for the sake of it. And I turned in those first few months rubbing people the wrong way. And sometimes I still do, but I think after going through these 4 years in the senior leadership in TI, I've learned that the more you serve the members of our organization, the more they're willing to do for you. And at times that I've backslid, I've been graced on having some great mentors that I actually have developed. They weren't the ones that were assigned to me when I joined the club. They're the people that were just natural born leaders, like Becky McGilton, I'll throw her name out, that just stepped in and filled where she saw a void, and just stepped up and took me by her arm and said, this is what you need to do. And I've had other people along the way that have taken me aside and said, this is the feedback I think you need to hear. So last year when I was district director, I took all of that to heart. And I said, you know, if I really want to do a good job and I really want to develop, I need to do this as a high performance leadership project. So I went to 2 people that swore they would never ever work with me and asked them to be on my leadership committee. Both of them said yes. And the other people were other district directors, past district directors, that already knew what I didn't know yet, but was about to quickly find out, and asked them to be part of my committee. And I made sure that throughout the year, I reached out to these people and tried to get a reality check. How are we doing? How can I do it better? At one point, Becky actually said, what do you need now? When I called her up, before I even got to ask the question. So my leadership journey in Toastmasters, I think I've come a long way. But the best thing that I've learned during this entire time through TI is I learned that I need to learn a lot more. You hear you don't know what you don't know that you don't know, right? I've been thinking about this, and people said, well, what are you going to do next? Well, I'm doing public relations because I've never done that before at this level. And I've seen in the 4 years I've been in leadership some good examples, but mostly really bad. And unfortunately this year, the young lady passed away that was. But I think I could do a better job, and I'd like the opportunity to see if what I think it's supposed to be like works. And I'm hoping for the feedback from the trio to see if that is. But I've also never been a division director. When I was district director, I've asked people their expectations and told them what they needed to do, and TI tells you what you need to do without actually giving you the real training you need to do it. And I'd like to see if I could take those lessons and apply it there. And one day, I may actually run for the trio again to see if the successes I had were a fluke, or if the people that I got with me learned, or if I learned from them, and just to see if you could do better. You know, I may run for the international board. Basically what I'm saying is my journey isn't over. And I hope now that we're all into this whole pathways thing now, even if you were burnt out on what they're calling the legacy program, it's new for everybody. I've only given one speech in Pathways. I am not an authority on Pathways at all. I know Basecamp because I've had to lecture on it, but I'm starting a new journey as well. This year as Public Relations Manager, as well as starting on my Pathways journey. So, you guys are 16 now. I'm looking at the sheets that you had on the table, and there's so many successes that you guys have had there. Who's been in leadership, who's won what, who's done what. But the beauty of it is it's all new. It's all fresh. So even if you thought you were at the end of your journey and you've done as high as you thought you were going to be, I would challenge you to say, no, you haven't. It's all new again. The expectations are completely new. The paths are completely new, and they're adding more. So even if you don't like the paths that they're currently putting in front of you, I know comedy is coming out, and I know I've got my hand raised for when that comes out. And there's other paths that are coming as well. So you guys have a new member today. I believe you even have a guest. This is a great opportunity for you guys to really embrace your personal journeys. And I know some of you have aspirations on going past where you are now and going into leadership, whether it be at the club, the district, or whatever. And it would be really great to be an observer on your personal journey. Madam Toastmaster.